Sixers. 10, 9, 8, 76ers.
What's going on, everyone? This is UK 76ers. My name is Ben Glasspool, and last night the Philadelphia 76ers lost by 119 points to 104 to the Detroit Pistons. Now, this is yet another game where we haven't won because Joel Embiid wasn't playing. And admittedly, some of these games you sort of think, fair enough, we're against half-decent sides, and if we don't have our best player, this is what happens. You naturally get punished. But this is against the worst team in the NBA, and for me, there's no excuse for what happened this evening. We can point to a lot of things, and look, throughout the whole game, we were poor. But this game was lost in the first quarter. When you look at it, the rest of the quarters, point scoring wise, was pretty tight. But the first quarter, we shot ourselves in the foot. We were down 34 to 23 by the end of the first, and we just never recovered. And there's a reason why we never recovered. And first of them is Ben Simmons fouling, getting stupid, niggly fouls. In the opening 7 minutes, he had 3 fouls, which meant he basically couldn't play for the rest of the half just to make sure he doesn't get in any more foul trouble. Dwight Howard playing horrifically poor. Now, I like Dwight Howard, but this was unacceptably bad. I don't care what you expect from him. We don't expect him to be the Dwight Howard from the Orlando Magic from years gone by, but we expect him to be a sensible veteran who can lead this team when we don't have Joel Embiid on the floor, who can be the adult in the room and ensure that we play proper basketball for the whole game that gets us to a win, that grinds out results. He didn't do that. He was horrible, and we'll get to Dwight Howard soon. And the defense was just so sluggish. We just let the Detroit Pistons get whatever they want, and they get whatever they want. And this is something that has been happening in a lot of games when Embiid isn't playing. Even sometimes when Embiid is playing, it's just the defense just switches off, or seemingly on it. Whenever they feel like they can switch it on and off, on and off. Sometimes they can be elite, sometimes they can be awful. And last night they were absolutely awful. Now, I said the first quarter was where it was lost, so let's talk about the first quarter. The lack of rebounding. Now, if there's one thing Dwight Howard can give you, it's rebounding. If he played normally he gets at least 10 rebounds just from the bench alone. So in a full starting minutes, he should be getting close to 20. Really, with the way he rebounds with such aggression, he goes up with such physicality and with such energy that it will pester any center, no matter how good they are. And he wasn't getting any of them. And as a result, the Pistons just completely dominated us on the glass, particularly on our own defensive glass. They just got all the offensive boards they want, and that's how they kept getting points. These second chance points that we just gifted to them. One of them, Jeremy Grant, was on the floor and managed to get the offensive rebound, which says a lot about the lack of effort, because rebounding at the end of the day is effort. You look at Dennis Rodman, the best ever rebounder, one of the best ever rebounders to play the game. He's not the tallest ever, but it was all about effort, all about predicting where the ball's going to go. So when people aren't getting rebounds, you can more often than not attribute that to a lack of effort. And that's really it on the rebounding side of things. We didn't put in enough effort. The Detroit Pistons did, to their credit, and they got the rebounds and they got their points as a result. 3-pointers. Wayne Ellington went off this evening. He had 6 and 9. Delon Wright had a decent number of threes. Ellington finished on 20 points, Wright on 28. And the reason they get 3-pointers is because this defense collapses so quickly. When the defense collapses, all these shooters on the perimeter in acres of space, and we don't have the quickness to close out unless it's Ben Simmons, who obviously had to go off so early because of that foul trouble, or Matisse Thybulle, who when he played was very good defensively but didn't play all the time, and then that's when the Pistons went on their runs. So with this defense collapsed far too early and far too quickly, there's almost like an itchy trigger finger sort of thing going on. They collapsed, and then all the spaces on the perimeter for Jeremy Grant, for Wayne Ellington, for Delon Wright to just hit their shots, which they did. Well, they just punished us throughout the game, and we never really seemed to figure it out. On another thing, Wayne Ellington was initially guarded by Danny Green. Look, I have sung the praise of Danny Green. I think he has been good this season, but it is very evident how he's getting torched on defense through the lack of lateral quickness, which he just doesn't have anymore. All Ellington had to do is go around the screen, and that is, see you later, Danny Green isn't going to get to you. There's an open shot. And when Matisse Thybulle went on Ellington, he could follow around these screens, and he wouldn't foul, and he could get to him and ensure and get a good contest up, and that's when Ellington wasn't scoring. So it didn't take a genius to figure out how to stop Ellington from getting these threes, and it was just put Matisse on him. It's as simple as that. But we didn't have Matisse on him all the time, and that's why Ellington managed to get 20 points, 6 and 9. What I will say, Ellington these last 2 games have been fantastic. He's on a $1 million 1-year deal. I expect him to hit the buyout market, and anyone with half a brain, Daryl Morey, he knows far more than I do. Go get Wayne Ellington in that buyout market because he looks very, very good. Look, I've only watched 2 Detroit Piston games. Perhaps he's awful for the rest of them, but that he seems like a solid pickup if we can get him another, good vet shooter to bring to this bench. Anyway, we'll get back to the game. So the first quarter, we lost in the first quarter. Dwight Howard goes off. Tony Bradley comes in. This is the best game I've seen Tony Bradley play. He was everything Dwight Howard should have been. Rebounding, putting points back, not turning the ball over. Dwight Howard was just terrible the whole way through. We talk about his rebounding. He can't seem to catch a ball. He's near enough 7 foot. He's got really good leap on him, and he can't catch a ball. He's got massive hands. You can't catch a ball. And we've seen this so many times. And like I said, Dwight Howard this season was very good. But for whatever reason, whenever he starts a basketball game, he can't do anything. He gets stupid fouls. He gets caught up in the heat of the moment. He gives away his technical foul every game, which is just becoming, a tradition of Dwight Howard to give away a needless technical. And then people say, oh, a technical is only 1 point. It's stupid and it's ill-disciplined. Now, I can understand the odd technical here and there. If just, sometimes you're arguing a call and refs maybe, again, they'll just give you a tech because they're not having it. Sometimes that happens. But if you're just being moronic, and if he keeps doing this every game, this isn't the ref's fault, it's Dwight Howard's fault, and you give away needless points and you swing the momentum of a game, you stop the game dead. And then the Detroit Pistons can gather their thoughts and they can, reassess how they're going to go about this game and then counter any sort of momentum we have. So keep your mouth shut. Don't give away technicals. Don't give away needless points because they'll come back to cost you and haunt you. Which, look, we ended up getting blown up by 15 points. But I genuinely think if we just our attitude towards the game at the start was terrible, and if that just gets adjusted, then this doesn't happen in the end. Ben Simmons, these fouls. Now, normally you can trust him to not get into foul trouble, but these last few games, well, not against Boston, but I think it was the game before, he gets into foul trouble, and we suffer because if he's not on the court, then we can't defend as well as we normally can. We saw what we did with Jeremy Grant on the last game, held him to 11 points. When Ben Simmons doesn't play, Jeremy Grant gets 25 points. I mean, that in and of itself is 14 more points than he would normally get if Ben Simmons is guarding him, and we lost by 15. Ben Simmons only played 20 minutes. You'd expect him to play 35, 36 if he wasn't in this foul trouble. We missed out on 15 minutes of Ben Simmons playing, who was only a -2, and I expected his plus-minus would have been better had he been playing his normal amount of minutes, because he did influence this game when he was playing. He was very good offensively. I thought he was really aggressive. He got the finish on 11 points, and I think had he had his 35, 36, I don't see why he wouldn't got near enough 20 points, maybe more. But he just needs to be more sensible. And sometimes, we know how good he is at stealing. We know how good he is at blocking on the odd occasion. But sometimes he goes looking for those steals and looking for those blocks. There's one that comes to mind. Blake Griffin was backing down Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris has been a decent post defender so far this season. He doesn't need to be double teamed. Doesn't need any help. But Blake Griffin has been poor this season. He's not what he used to be. But for whatever reason, Ben Simmons tries to go and get the steal, leaves Grant open at the top of the three. Then Griffin passes to Grant, who then hits the three. The shot clock was less than 10 seconds. All you got to do is leave Tobias with Griffin and let whatever happens. Because I have a very good feeling that Tobias would have probably just done what he needed to do and made sure he didn't get the point. And instead they get 3 because Ben Simmons had wanted to get that steal. And look, we love it when Ben Simmons steals, and he's very good at it, and he's a very good defender. But it's just about having, that basketball IQ. We just need to get stops. Steals are great when they come, yes, but we just needed stops. And it's just little things like that. When you put your hand in the cookie jar, you go for those steals. Sometimes you do get fouled. He didn't get a foul on that occasion, but you get fouled. And that's when it all racks up, and that's when we can't use you anymore. But if he's on 3 fouls, then he can't be his usual aggressive self on the defensive end because he can't commit to a lot of things because he doesn't want to get that 4th, 5th foul. It's just using that IQ. And look, he was like I said, he was fantastic when he played, but he let us down, unfortunately. I do think, look, his performance overall has improved, but this is just so completely negligent if you're going to foul needlessly because we need you. Tobias held up his end of the bargain. He got 25 points, 3 or 6 from 3, a good, efficient game from Tobias yet again, but he needed help, and it was so obvious. And the issue we have with this offense when Joel Embiid isn't playing is that we have no way of getting open looks. Now, look how the Pistons did. They can, for all their faults, they can move the ball really well. Mason Plumlee's a really good passing big, and they always move the ball about to find that open man, and they do it really, really well to their credit. We don't do that. How we get open men is Embiid draws the double, we swing it round, and that does work, but it's a bit one-dimensional, to be fair. When Embiid isn't playing, we have no idea how to get Seth Curry open. We have one of the best 3-point shooters in the league, and we have no idea how to get him open. He only made 1 3 this evening, and it's not because he was poor, it's because there was no opportunity for him to get an open look. Give Seth Curry an open look and he'll drain it. It's as simple as that. But Ben Simmons, I think he was in more of an attack mode rather than a facilitating mode, and that's fair enough, I guess. But when he's not playing, look, Shake Milton, we love Shake Milton, we love Tyrese Maxey, and they're great, but they're not your prototypical point guards. They're not going to consistently give you what you want in terms of playmaking, and it showed again today. And they did, Maxey finished on 17 points, so like 8 of those points came in garbage time. So that's essentially 10 points really that he gave us. Shake Milton got 10 points again. You perhaps expect a bit more from him, but he was doing something at the very least. But it's so obvious that when Ben Simmons isn't playing, all the the point scoring goes on Harris, Milton, Maxey, and a lot of the shots they get when they're trying to get these points. Some of them they do make, to their credit, but they're very difficult shots. They're mid-range pull-ups, they're post-ups, and then again trying to finish over the top of a big defender or something like that, or the floater game. There's no way that we can stretch this team. And even when we penetrate, we don't seem to get the correct kickouts or whatever else. And it was just it's incredibly frustrating. And I'm sure Doc will notice that he's not stupid, and he'll figure it out. Because the thing is, I'm completely for resting Joel Embiid in these games. I think it made sense. Play him in that first one. That gives him more of a rest so he can rest for the Lakers. You play him for the Boston games. Those are important games. The way they're resting, I think, makes a lot of sense. I really do agree with that. He's playing, we're not going to risk injury, and we're also just, playing in non-consequential games. Game that we should win. Look, we haven't won any without him, but a lot of them we should have won. Just in terms of, 1v1 matchups. And that's not on Joel Embiid, that's not on Doc Rivers, that's on these players playing. And they haven't done enough. I mean, Tobias Harris has done, but it's just frustrating because it's the same things every time. As soon as I found that Joel Embiid wasn't playing, I'm fairly certain we weren't going to beat this Detroit Pistons team. Because this is just what always happens, and it's so frustrating. And there should be a trade, some sort of trade happening. And look, Tony Bradley was fantastic. Dwight Howard was poor, and I still want them both. But I think Tony Bradley will be our future backup big man. And Dwight Howard's a good vet to have around the place, and he has done more good than bad this season. But sometimes there is such a need for that stretch five, that someone that can just shoot the three but also defend the post. And that's, everyone wants one of those, but there must be one somewhere that we can get on a half decent deal. Because when Dwight plays with Ben Simmons, that's 2 people right off the bat who can't shoot a ball outside of the paint. When you bring Matisse Thybulle into the fray, that's 2 people that can't shoot a ball and 1 guy who can occasionally hit his threes. What 25% he is at the moment. When you bring Furkan Korkmaz into the fray, it's just like, yeah, he might, go off on you. He might not. You can normally figure it out from the start. So all of a sudden, you have a lineup where over half the people on the floor can't hit threes, and that leaves us with no spacing, and that leaves Ben Simmons with nothing to help him out with, or even Shake Milton. That gives him nothing. He can't do his drive if people are just clogging up the paint. So we need to figure it out. How do we initiate an offense without Joel Embiid and get our players to have open looks and easy shots? Because we don't get those. We had there seemed to be a lot of mid-range attempts, and they're not the very efficient shot. Look, they can be a good shot if you're good from the mid-range. And to be fair, Milton and Harris and Maxey have been good for the mid-range this season, but you can't rely on it. You can't rely on it for a whole game. So second quarter, a bit better. The defense tightened up, and whenever we did try and get back into this game, it's because our defense was good. It's not because our offense was good, it's because our defense was good. And it's Matisse Thybulle who's really annoying Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin was sort of hissy throughout the game because Matisse Thybulle was showing up, and I can't blame Blake for being a bit annoyed. This might sound salty, but he goes from being one of the most biggest superstars in the NBA to not even being the best player on the worst team in the NBA. And his best years are behind him. So I can understand why he feels annoyed when he's getting shown up by some second year, 20-year-old, almost like Matisse isn't a nobody, but he by no means Blake Griffin's level, caliber sort of player in terms of name at least. So I can understand why that frustrated him. But Matisse, had Blake Griffin's number. He was getting steals. He was poking the ball away. He was getting fast break points as a result of Blake's turnovers. It was great. When the defense tightened up, that's when we got back into the game. That's when Matisse was put on Griffin or put on Ellington, and then when Simmons could actually play the game, that's when we started getting stuff. And Tony Bradley was fantastic, as I alluded to before. but it always came down to a free throw disparity. Now, in this game, we have 20 free throws to Detroit's 38. What can you do with that? You're going to struggle if there's such a disparity like that. And it's because a lot of niggly fouls that we kept stupidly giving away. And whenever we mounted any sort of a comeback, it was always, oh, they're going to the line, or they'll get a fast break, and in transition, they'll drain a three or something like that. That transition defense needs sorting out ASAP, because it's been pathetic all season. Even with Embiid, it's been pathetic. And I said it so many times before. Whenever we go on a fast break, we don't seem to capitalize. Whenever anyone goes on a fast break on us, you can book it. It's a point. It's a 3-pointer. It's a 2-pointer. It's an and one. It's whatever. They get to the line. We can't seem to defend the transition, and that needs working on. It's disgraceful, and a lot of it is, again, it's an effort-related thing with transition defense. It's how quickly do you want to get back? How quickly you want to go back and defend, and do you want to stop them scoring? And seemingly we didn't. It came to the half, we're 64 points to 50 down. At the half, they had 20 free throws. We had 7. And it was a season high number of fouls at the half with 15. It was 3 for Simmons, 3 for Shake. And when that happens, 2 of our most productive offensive players, you're going to struggle. And that's not me trying to give us an excuse, because I still think this was an abysmal performance. And I still think there's so many fingers to point at within the Sixers roster. Third quarter came again, and it's the same thing. We kept trying to come back, and a lot of it was because our defense tightened up. But then there was perhaps an adjustment that wasn't quite right, or we give away a stupid bucket in transition, or send them to the free throw line. So we get to within, I don't know, 6 or 7, and then all of a sudden it's back down to 12 or 13, and then we repeat, and then before you know it, there comes a point where we can't claw back that 14-point deficit with 5 minutes to go in the fourth. So the fourth quarter comes along, and we gave up. We gave up 8 minutes into the fourth, with 4 minutes left of the game. We threw in the bench unit, and I think that was almost it was 15 points, and we've seen crazier deficits been made up in that amount of time. But I do think also it's a case of Doc wants to rest him for the Lakers, but also that he was not happy with the effort he was seeing. We're getting shown up by, like they said, this Detroit Pistons team, which is going to be a lottery team, and they're not very good. But it was the effort they put in. It was their willingness to win, their want to win. So that was the game. It was just, we really let ourselves down. It was an opportunity for people to step up yet again. And they should be. They're professional athletes. When your best player in Joel Embiid isn't playing, you would have thought that, a playoff contender, arguably a title contender, I don't think we are, but people can make that claim. When you're a part of that team and your best player isn't playing, you should relish that opportunity to stand up and say, I can do what he can do. I can lead this team. I can grind out wins for us. Like I said, Tobias Harris is up for that. Ben Simmons, when he played, seemed to be up for it. But no one else seemed to be bothered. No one else wants to take this opportunity, and it's happened not just in this Detroit game, but every game that Embiid hasn't played. No one wants to stand up and be counted and say, I'm the guy, give the ball to me, I'll get this done for us. No one wants to do it. Everyone runs scared. And this seriously needs addressing, because it's pathetic. Because we're going to not play Embiid for a fair few games to come, and we can't maintain this. We can't just we can't just write it off and say, oh, Embiid's not playing, we're going to lose. Because if Embiid isn't playing against the Pistons and you lose, there aren't many teams worse than the Pistons. So assuming that every team that Embiid doesn't play against is better, then that means we're going to lose again. It's just you can't sustain this. It's disgraceful, it's unacceptable, and we should be playing better. Perhaps it's also a testament to just how good Embiid has been this season, which it is. He is the MVP so far, but it's still inexcusable. So yeah, that was last night's game. One thing I will add on to, Josh Jackson was given at large about how, he said something pretty derogatory towards Ben Simmons, which I found, completely ironic, because last time I saw Josh Jackson, no team wanted to pick him up. He was one of the biggest draft busts of the 21st century. I seem to remember a report of him getting his own child high. So, you can call Ben Simmons all you want. You can say, he's a this, that, and the other because he doesn't shoot. Ben Simmons doesn't shoot a three-pointer and is still 10 times the player you are, Josh Jackson. 10 times the player you are. Ben Simmons is loved by this team. He may even have his jersey retired, and he'll go down in the Hall of Fame if he keeps going on the way he is. You will be forgotten in an instant. Ben Simmons will be playing in the All-Star game. You're more likely to be playing in the G League. You are nothing but an embarrassment, Josh Jackson. So you can go and call him that all you like, but just remember that no one cares for you. And in that game, you saw that. Josh Jackson tried to give it last to Ben Simmons. The whole Sixers bench emptied to start on Josh Jackson. That Detroit bench, they didn't want to know. They couldn't care less because they knew that Josh Jackson is just a massive moron. He can't go 5 minutes without being a moron. So that's that. That did annoy me. Look, I can take losing, but that Josh Jackson thing did annoy me because I'm like, who the hell do you think you are? Who do you think you are? You're nobody. You're nothing. You've been an embarrassment your whole career. So don't go giving it last to someone who's actually made a name for himself, who's actually been an All-Star, who's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, who's an All-NBA player, because you're feeling a bit lucky because your team's beating them without Joel Embiid. Simmer down, mate. Simmer down. Anyway, that was last night's game against the Detroit Pistons. The Lakers on Wednesday. We can quickly make this up and repay the fans who are all a bit annoyed right now with a win against the Lakers. It'll be a fantastic game. Ben v LeBron, Joel v AD. This is going to have some great matchups. I can't wait. At the Wells Fargo Center. Such a shame the fans can't be there, but it's just the way it goes, unfortunately. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you all on Wednesday for that Los Angeles Lakers game, guys. See you later.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.